3M refused Trump's demand to divert 10 million N95 masks produced in Singapore to the US. The masks are produced in Singapore and exported to countries in Asia. 3M's response here, interesting read. https://www. MarketWatch.com/story/3M hits back at Trump, says ceasing exports of N95 masks will have opposite effect humanitarian consequences. 2020-04-03, Cited equals Yahoo2 and YPTR equals Yahoo, https://www. MarketWatch.com/story/3M hits back at Trump, says ceasing exports of N95 masks will have opposite effect humanitarian consequences. 2020-04-03, Cited equals Yahoo2 and YPTR equals Yahoo. Take a look at 3M's technical specification sheet for the N95 mask. The input materials are globally sourced. If the U.S. shuts down the export of masks, the import of raw materials will dry up as other countries start their own, possibly less efficient, manufacturing. The act of disrupting working supply chains will worsen the shortage for the world, including the U.S. Whether or not anyone retaliates. Well, I mean, Singapore can just nationalize the factory on their sovereign soil. Kind of the problem when you outsource your production to other countries. Can any lawyers weigh in on the legality of the president's request, please? 3M are based in St. Paul, Minnesota, and the president has apparently invoked the Defense Production Act. From https://en. wikipedia.org/wiki/defense_production_act_of/_1950 https://en. wikipedia.org/wiki/defense_production_act_of_1950 #COVID-19. On April 2, Trump said he was invoking the DPA to require 3M, https://en. wikipedia.org/wiki/3M, to increase its production of protective masks, N95 respirators. So, presumably 3M HQ has to do what it's told, but does that also extend to 3M plants outside of the US? If 3M complied with this, their factories outside the US would just be nationalized by the respective governments and they might not get them back. Brand America isn't going to recover from a Trump for a long time. Edit. The K10S pulp from Canada is used for surgical masks and gowns, vice N95 masks. My point about retaliatory options being available to Canada in the event of US destruction of trade in medical devices still stands. I have read that much of the raw material for the masks that 3M makes in North America comes from a mill in British Columbia, Canada, and there aren't US-based suppliers to meet 3 milliseconds production capacity. Go ahead, stop shipping masks to Canada. The US plants will quickly realize they won't have materials to make them. I guess they didn't cover that in the art of the deal. Sorry, but I can't find the reference right now, but will update when I do. The administration also requested that 3M cease exporting respirators that we currently manufacture in the United States to the Canadian and Latin American markets. There are, however, significant humanitarian implications of ceasing respirator supplies to healthcare workers in Canada and Latin America, where we are a critical supplier of respirators. In addition, ceasing all export of respirators produced in the United States would likely cause other countries to retaliate and do the same, as some have already done. If that were to occur, the net number of respirators being made available to the United States would actually decrease. That is the opposite of what we and the administration, on behalf of the American people, both seek. https://news. 3M.com/press release/company English/3M response Defense Production Act order. Prior to seeing the response from 3M, hearing about private companies selling PPE to other countries, particularly when US states were bidding against each other for PPE, was a concern. Realizing now, I'm not saying the PPE shortage is no longer a concern, but I may have spoken too soon. As a global community suffering from a pandemic, is it not the responsibility of manufacturers to help on a global scale? The US is not the only place suffering. Unfortunately, due to many factors which likely could have been eased had leadership figures stepped in sooner, the shortage of PPE is a global problem that few, if any, have escaped. Ethically speaking, if 3M is a primary PPE supplier to Canada and Latin American countries, is there not a responsibility to provide for those countries, in conjunction to providing for the US? Trump wants to regulate the free market for PPE supplies now. That's rich. Philips, a Dutch company, manufactures respirators in the USA. They expect the USA to force them to provide the respirators, even though other countries placed orders way before the USA did. Expected consequence: countries that supply parts for the production of the respirators will not deliver to the USA anymore, halting the production. Curious to see how it'll actually work out. While I appreciate him finally taking the pandemic seriously and taking measures to protect America, doing so by fucking other countries wasn't what I had in mind. How the fuck do we go from "you don't need this many masks and ventilators" last week to "we're confiscating masks meant for someone else because we don't have enough" this week? This reminds me of the brilliant answer I once read: "Your poor planning doesn't make it my emergency." WTF. I love seizing the means of production now. Anti-communist conservatives. I thought he said they didn't need them. Now he's trying to steal them from other countries on the other side of the world, just when you think he can't sink any lower. Removed. This is bullshit. The US has a problem with wanting to try and extend its jurisdiction to other countries. The 3M subsidiary in Singapore shouldn't have to abide by American laws. Fact of the matter is, this whole thing is bullshit because we should have had adequate supplies and a shit ton more hospital beds before we had a global pandemic. We honestly don't have proper health infrastructure for normal conditions, and this orange dude hasn't done shit about it since he's been elected, so I don't know what he was expecting to happen if he just decided to ignore our broken healthcare system. I'm a permanent resident in Singapore. If the White House were to request, in a nice way, Singapore's assistance, they might get it. If the government of Singapore were to make the request, it would be very hard for 3 minutes to refuse. Edit. I remember when PM Lee visited the Obama White House during the election. Lee was asked who they wanted to win the election. He gave the standard Singapore neutrality answer: "We will work with whoever wins." Obama looked slightly angry. Then Lee added, "The American system of government is so stable, how much damage could one leader do?" Well, we're finding out, aren't we? Interesting. The Dutch company Philips, which makes respirators, had overseas production in America. I'd bet that Trump would be so hypocrite to seize products made in factories abroad, while at the same not letting foreign companies fabricate products on American soil and export them. Jesus, what a time to be alive. I've always thought USA was one of the good guys, but recently they are just outright evil. I know China has done some shady ass shit to its own people, but USA is doing everything they can to fuck over everyone else. Jesus. Fuck USA. What about the shops that are making the mega apparel? Can they start making masks? Look at it like this. How would you feel if Canada stopped shipping the special paper required to make the masks to the US? Or cut off electricity to the eastern states? Or prevented thousands of doctors and nurses from crossing the border to Michigan hospitals? Trade goes both ways. So this is the part where a bunch of well-adjusted, intelligent folks threaten the lives of 3M executives, right? Trump hasn't even made it so that masks made in the US stay in the US, but he wants to demand that masks made in other countries not be sold in those countries. This is not a serious request by Trump. This is him looking to scapegoat other peoples and other countries. Isn't this just the free market working? Capitalism means that a company can sell its products to whomever it wants. It doesn't matter who needs them so much as who will provide the most profit usually. The shipping infrastructure is in place for distribution in Asia. Hospitals in Asia paid for them, hospitals in Asia get them. Anyone upset about that should rethink their support for laissez-faire economic policy.